Café and Networking Podcast promotes successful business owners and business experts throughout the world. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people from my unique communication lab in Brazil. And today we talk with Teri Brown. She's joining us from Calabash, North Carolina. Teri Brown is a novelist and author of Sunflowers Beneath the Snow, a historical fiction set in Ukraine. This story is ripped from the headlines and will help readers understand the current Ukrainian conflict and develop empathy and compassion toward their plight. So Teri, as an author, what advice can you give aspiring writers?
Well, I always talk with writers and try to help them and convince them that writing is what they want to do, because so many people are afraid that maybe being a writer isn't really a job or it isn't really real. It's like something that you do on the side. I'm a co-host on the Writers Lounge, and we're often talking with writers and new writers and people who want to write. And the three things that I tell people are, number one, you have to start. There are so many people that are waiting for just the right time, like when my kids grow up, or when I finally have enough money, or when I've taken the right classes, or I've gotten the right degree. And my point is, you can't become a writer until you actually start writing. So start putting stuff down, and it doesn't even have to be, don't worry about what is it.
Right.
You have to start writing. I think of it like, if you think about someone who is a famous painter, they didn't learn all these techniques by sitting with their hands folded in a chair, watching people paint and looking at paintings. They started painting, right? And those first things that they painted were terrible. Most of them they painted over. That's why we can go through and take off all of the layers and find old paintings underneath. Well, it's the very same thing with writing. If you don't start writing, you're never going to become a writer.
Well, and that's anything in life. You got to start.
Exactly. But you'd be amazed at the number of people that I talk to who are afraid to get started because they don't know enough yet.
Well, you're
never going to. You're never going to know enough. You're never going to know enough to get started. So you need to go ahead and just start writing. So then the second thing I tell people is once you have written enough that you believe that you have something of value, whether it's a short story or a poem or an entire manuscript, find someone that you trust, that you believe will be honest with you. So not your child, not your best friend, maybe not even your spouse, it just depends. Someone that will read it and offer you honest, genuine feedback. Okay. And then listen to that feedback. So don't hand it to someone, hear what they have to say, and then say, well, they just don't understand writing. They don't understand. You need to listen, because eventually you're hoping to have an audience.
Right.
And if your audience doesn't understand what you're writing, then maybe you're going to have to switch things up a little so that they do. Or it may be that they tell you, I really enjoyed it, but it was a little slow. Or I really enjoyed it, but you skipped through it so fast, I wanted to get to know the characters more. You'll learn, right. You'll learn what other people are looking for. So that's my second piece of advice. And then my final piece of advice almost sounds like I'm contradicting myself. And that's, you do not have to listen to everyone. Okay? Because writing is an art. There isn't just one style. There isn't just one book out there. There's lots of variety. And so definitely try things out. See if it works for you. But if it doesn't, it's perfectly okay to put it to the side and say, that is not for me. It's not that it's bad advice. It's that advice is not good for me and my writing style.
And I agree with you wholly. And because I've written a book, but I have to agree, because when you get to the third part, the book is you. You are the writer.
Exactly.
And so it's your persona. And at the end of the day, it's who you are and what you're going to replicate. But in your case, and I think everybody has a story and everybody can write, but you write fiction, so you don't really need a story. You make up a story.
I do make up a story, but so far everything that I have made up has a little kernel of truth to it. So in Sunflowers Beneath the Snow, I have I met a girl who told me this story, And that story was the impetus for this whole book. I wrote 82,000 words of fiction so I could tell 3 pages of truth. And
well, sometimes that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
You know,
and
sometimes
so
you have to do that to get people to read 3 pages.
Well, and it's interesting. The way my brain works, the smallest things will happen. Someone will tell me this little quote, or I'll see something on the beach when I'm walking, and immediately I start creating a story around it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what I come to write is because there's something real that has happened that I want to know the backstory to, but there's no way to know.
Well, that gets back to your first advice. Everybody has opportunities literally in front of them every day. So it's to pick and choose and then decide, well, I'm going to tell people about that. Because there's 8 billion people out there, looking for news, looking for things. And
I agree.
We each have our story. We can make our story.
That's true. And I think so many people have a writer in them, and they just don't recognize it. If you can talk and if you can carry on a conversation and people listen to that, then you have the ability to take that and put it on paper. It's just a matter of, do you want to, and are you willing to hone it?
Well, when I thought I would write, my challenge was the word write. And I too went on to the internet and looked for help and how to write a book. And really what I got was what you just said. And the newsletter I followed said, if you can talk, you can write a book, period.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yeah.
And you're still right. Everybody's right. Just do it.
Yeah. So if it's something you want to do, and I don't think that everybody is a writer, because not everybody wants to be one. Mm-hmm. And that's perfectly fine too, because I don't want to be a firefighter or a brain surgeon. And that doesn't mean anything other than it's not for me.
Right.
But if it's something that you want to do, then you definitely do it. Don't wait. Don't wait for some magical time.
I partially agree with you. Because in today's world, and the pandemic showed us that even though we were sort of cloistered away, we had time, we did think, but it can be a side track in a positive way to yourself.
No, I agree.
And it's something you can do part-time. So, a firefighter, you need a fire. To write a book, you don't need a fire. You just need to, what you said, just start, put something down, share, ask for advice, and go. And it doesn't have to be, all day long.
No, see, and I think a lot of people too have this idea that to be a writer means that you're writing every day, all day. It's your only job. It's your only passion. It's the only thing. And to be a writer just means that you write.
Right.
So you can be a writer and write 30 minutes a day. And that's okay too. There's a difference between being a writer and being an author. An author is someone who's had something published, and a writer is someone who writes. So if you want to write, you should start writing, and then maybe you'll get to be an author. That's
the path.
Right. Exactly.
And right is right, and right is right with a W, right? It's all right.
Exactly.
Well, Teri, I want to thank you for being part. How can our audiences, I'm going to say, find you?
So I have a website. It's www.terimBrown, and that's Teri with 1 R, TERIM Brown.com. And there you can follow on all of my social media, and you can join my newsletter. And I'm also a co-host on the Writers Lounge, which is every other Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can go to writerslounge.com. Come on out and have a listen.
Listen and get some more useful advice, right?
Absolutely.
So thanks again.
Thank you.
And again, it's Teri M. Brown, Teri, the letter M, BROWN, at terimbrown.com, and you'll find her books on Amazon. Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at focusmi.com. Thanks for listening until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.